In this next section, let's now look at the coaching focus for multidirectional speed, with specific emphasis again on shuffle cut and crossover. Just like our linear speed categories, we want to go through our coaching pyramid, but now give specific focus on things that are relevant for our change of direction discussion. First one again is posture. Posture at the end of the day is the anchor by which the arms and legs always pull on. Therefore, we have to first emphasize it. When it comes to the posture relative to the ground, the two major things we're concerned about is center of mass versus base of support. Do I have a large enough base of support relative to my center of mass to drive my motion in the desired direction? That definitely is locked in relative to my posture because my posture has to be anchored relative to my legs. Once I have that good neutral posture relative to the movement I'm teaching, then we can start to look at the leg action itself. When it comes to leg action, we specifically want to emphasize inside versus outside leg action focus points. So again, recall when it comes to the crossover, that inside leg and that outside leg need to synchronize together to allow for an effective crossover position to be achieved. Conversely, if we're talking about the shuffle, that outside leg, more the driver, and that inside leg needs to passively just stay off the ground to allow the body to collect energy and continue to move in the desired direction. So biomechanically speaking, understanding how the inside versus the outside leg work relative to the multidirectional speed skill you are teaching is incredibly important. Has to be anchored against a positive posture. And then finally, arm action is all about rotational balance. We especially see this in our crossover, but it's the same case in almost all movements. Arms and eyes need to help drive and counterbalance what the legs are doing relative to an offensive or defensive position. So at the end of the day, understanding the biomechanical underpinnings of all the movement patterns, movement sequences we are teaching is critical to allow you to effectively arm and focus your coaching. Let's now look at shuffle cut and crossover from a coaching perspective. If we look at the shuffle cut, let's start by discussing the outside leg. Push, drive, snap, punch the ground away. Again, these change of direction type movements, whether decision-based or not, should last less than 250 milliseconds. Therefore, it should be a very fast contact off the ground. So we want our language, again, to reinforce the biomechanics that we are teaching. Explode off the ground, weight inside the cut. All of these terms would allow them to get a wide base, but most importantly, leaning away from the line. We typically want to tell them the line is the enemy, angle in, angle out are all critical features to make sure the hip, inside of knee, inside of ankle all line up, inside edge loading to allow that shuffle cut to be performed effectively. It's all about that push. That's where your language needs to be directed. From a postural perspective, again, as we've said, angle in, angle out. Provide an overall analogy. Take a look at this picture. If we were to provide an angle over it, literally imagine a roof angling down. They want to get under the roof and get out. Angle in, angle out. Set the tone for the body posture from the get-go. So, not only the angle in, angle out, stay under the roof, but also wide base. If I have a wide base, that reinforces that I can lean and load that inside leg. Oftentimes in robust cuts, like we're seeing in this image, that inside leg is critically important because by loading it, it allows me to have less total body weight on the outside leg, allowing a faster cut off the ground. Again, reinforcing why we use terms like push, drive, snap, and punch. We want fast language when it comes to that outside leg cutting or shuffling. Now, mind you, while everything we're discussing is working kind of in this lateral plane, these same language and same coaching cues apply for directional cutting. Whether it be a 45-degree cut or something even more robust, the same principles apply. Wide base, lower the center of mass, angle in, angle out, using these cues to drive how the movement should be sequenced. From a crossover perspective, some similar cues come to life. The principles are similar in that I'm trying to drive lateral, but now I'm trying to do it into an actual acceleration position. So that inside leg is analogous to the outside leg in the shuffle and cut. It is the major engine room in this movement. So now push, drive, snap, punch the ground away, but now you're directing that focus on the inside leg. Exploding off the ground, specifically discussing the outside edge opposed to the inside edge of the foot. The outside leg, which is the actual one crossing over nice and tight, again needing to counterbalance with our shoulders and arms, snap knee across as if to break a pane of glass. Again, we're bringing forth that cue similar to what we did in acceleration, and that they want to imagine they have a pane of glass on that downside knee, and they're trying to bring that knee across and shatter right through it. Turning that wheel or turning those headlights as tight as they can as they drive that knee across. And then finally, drive knee towards the targeted direction. More often than not, when I'm doing a crossover, I'm crossing over at a given play or at a given opponent. Therefore, giving them the focus point, even in training, to drive their knee towards a target allows things to stay nice and tight and allows them to control, if you would, the driving of their car. At the end of the day, multi-directional speed, as we like to call it at Exos, is all about driving school. Can they direct the forces in the correct direction, in the correct magnitude, in the correct time? So with the crossover specifically, the ability to stay on a central line is very important in the control indice here. Recalling one final piece as a reminder that whether they're doing this for offensive or defensive purposes might change the magnitude of counter rotation of the shoulders relative to the hips. If I'm defensive and tracking, shoulders and eyes need to stay on the play, therefore I have a good counter rotation. If I'm offensively bursting into crossover to acceleration, I might throw the arms a bit more in the direction I'm trying to go to suddenly get into acceleration. So factor these considerations in when you're going through your cueing. So now that we have an understanding, again, of overarching our coaching pyramid and gave specific cues relative to shuffle and cut, noticing that those cues are either focused on posture, inside leg, outside leg, or arm action in certain cases, now let's do a quick check for learning. Write down the primary considerations for correcting posture, leg action, and arm action specific to multidirectional speed. Going well beyond what we shared in the slide, try to summarize it in your own terms. Then from there, let's go and list 2 to 3 cues for both the shuffle cut and the crossover. Again, if you can come up with cues beyond what we've shared in our lecture, that would be fantastic. And remember, at the end of the day, beyond just giving cues, it is always valuable to provide overarching analogies by which the biomechanics of the movement should be performed.